On this episode of Intent Topics, we're going to take a deep dive into what intent data actually is. Hey, what's up, Logan? How's it going, man?
Cracking, dude.
Oh, not a lot. You ready to rip today?
I am. Crush it.
Sweet. So today, let's do a deep dive into intent data.
Sure.
I want to do that because we're finding that it's a key differentiator in our lead generation business, right? And it's what makes us a lot different from other lead generation companies.
Yeah.
So our key differentiator is really this intent data plus our ability to apply, human hustle to do this kind of one-to-one outreach via whether it's email or calling or chat, right? And so I just want to establish a better understanding of how we use the data and more about what the data is, and to make our clients successful. You want to jam on that?
Yeah, dude. I think it's important. Absolutely.
Cool. So let's start with what is intent data. Let's start with like a high-level overview. Let's kind of umbrella this thing, and then we'll dive deeper. So
yeah, cool.
What do you think?
Cool. Yeah. So every time we do this fit analysis with all of our clients, right? So, or all of our prospects that, get to that stage, where we take a few hours with our teams, our data and our content teams to basically say, on a scale of 1 to 100, is this a good fit customer? Right.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for, and I think this is an important piece of intent data, is, are there signals that show us what's going on inside of a company that we can then speak to or build a sales outreach strategy that's outbound, but it's still assimilating into a process that's currently happening inside of a company. For instance, a company is researching, say, human capital management. Yep. What are some of the signals or what are some of the pieces of content, or what are some of the keywords that we will be looking for, or that show us that company is currently researching a specific topic? That is intent data.
Sweet. So generally, there's kind of three types of intent data, right? So there's first party data, and so this is information a business will observe and collect in their interactions with customers, prospects, web visitors, and these are all interactions with their website, maybe email sending, and social channels, right? And so savvy marketers, they'll use this to segment communications, do lead scoring, and create effective workflows. That's kind of like standard marketing practices, right? That's what pretty much everyone's doing at this point. The next would be second party data, right?
Sure.
And this is like first party intent data, but it's collected by another company, right? So it's like Google AdWords or Facebook or whatever, right? And the premise here is to observe the actions taken everywhere on the internet, not just on a single site or a network of sites. But then there's third-party intent data, and that's what we're talking about today, right? So why don't you dive into the kind of what third-party intent data is, right? Because it is kind of evolving daily, right? I almost call it the Wild West, right? There's
Sure.
Every day there's new sources of data coming out, and there's kind of three types of intent data. Why don't you talk to those?
Yeah. So let's back up to second party intent data. So, and first party intent data. So what we are looking for in third party intent data is all the things that you get by understanding the content that somebody's looking at on your own website or a collection of landing pages or whatever. And then all the good stuff you get to see, what keywords are effective, these kinds of things in second party intent data. Mm-hmm. Third party gets scale, and then you get to start to see AI, machine learning, starting to, and algorithms aggregating this data and not just spitting it back. And this is what I love about 2019, where we are now. It's that data is not just coming back to you in this raw output of here's all the stuff people are looking at in the market. What we're starting to see from data providers is really insightful readouts of this data. So it's this particular person, location, account, we'll talk about that in a second,
Mm-hmm.
is researching these particular topics,
Right.
or these particular pieces of content. And because of that, based on our algorithms, we believe that they are researching X topic.
Right.
And that's where I think having a good grasp on first party data, and if depending on the sophistication of the company, having a good grasp on your second party intent data, it really becomes powerful. Now, let's sort of set B2B intent data, because that's what we're talking about here, aside.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Anybody who has ever been on a website and then gone to Facebook as a person, like you're in your private life, you're a consumer, right? Has experienced like where intent data is, but like where Facebook and Google and retargeting and affinity audiences and in-market audiences on all these cool platforms that are B2C,
Mm-hmm.
they were here like in like 2005.
Right.
So intent data is awesome. It's powerful. It's solving for problems that don't exist in the B2C world.
Right.
But third-party intent data is beginning to allow sales leaders, marketers in that B2B space to start to have much more intelligent conversations. It's never going to be as easy as B2C marketing is.
Right. So like B2B is just now catching up to it, and it's a lot more complicated, right? And,
Yes.
But like to bring it to the B2C, I think like an example of this would be, say I'm researching on Airbnb a vacation or something, and within minutes, seconds, I switch to a different platform, and there they are serving the exact same list. It's this cross-platform observation of what I'm looking into, right? And that's where the shift is moving into, because that would be a lot easier if everyone was doing business like, the same way we were as consumers, right? But it's a lot more complicated, right? And you're talking about the enterprise, and the IP addresses are different, and what people are searching is different, and the problems being solved are different. But that's kind of the analogy I would use that helped me understand this early on, right?
Yeah. So I think that's, but now let's add the complexity of B2B. So like I can go on LinkedIn for Union, like right now off this podcast. I can take a pixel from LinkedIn. I can put it on the website on unionresolute.com and we can retarget people who have been to our site, right?
Totally. Yep.
So the idea here is we need to, with intent data, we need to start to look at B2B data with a respect for the complexity. It's not a straight line, right?
Right.
If you retarget somebody who's been on your website, you might be retargeting the executive assistant of the CEO who does not want to see that in their LinkedIn newsfeed.
Well, yeah.
So now this is where we get into the third party intent data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Real quick. So one thing I'd say is like, so with like the B2C, it's like 1-to-1, right? Like what's happening with me is going to be different from my wife, different with you, right? Like, whereas when you're looking in B2B, like you have different people with different roles in the company, and you like to use the word altitude, right? So like there's that whole extra like dynamic or dimension of what's going on.
Yes.
Rather than just like basically what I'm doing on my phone on the couch, right?
Right.
After work.
Yeah.
Cool. Got it.
Exactly.
So,
cool. Yeah. So all right. So let's go into the three types of intent data. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Go for it.
Cool. Sweet. So we'll get into kind of the deeper dive on like how we use this, but there are three types of intent data that we currently use in our game on a daily basis with all of our clients. Okay. There's account level and number one, account level intent data.
Yep.
So what this means is X company is showing signs of researching for particular topics more so than they have been in the past 52 weeks on a scale of 0 to 100. Okay.
Right. Yep.
It's important to note that this is at the account level, the company level, the firm level. So it doesn't care whether, Jack Smith who works at whatever Coca-Cola in Atlanta or John, Smith in Seattle at a Coca-Cola plant or whatever is searching.
There's, just as a sidebar, there's definitely 2 John Smiths at Coca-Cola. There's got to be.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Sure.
Or at least a J Smith, right? Maybe not John, but definitely J. Okay. So let's use the Coca-Cola example, right? So account level intent data, and don't let this cheap. So if you're listening, while I explain account level intent data, don't let as we go down in the types here, account level intent data, it's not specific to anything other than the company, but that doesn't mean it's not effective. In fact, in many cases, it's all you need and more effective than the other kinds. So cool. So now say you have, we move down, we go to location level intent data. Now what we can see is Jack in Atlanta researching certain topics, John in Seattle, not.
Yep.
I'm gonna look at, but I still don't know who it is.
Yep.
Okay. So I can tell.
And you could add like at different locations, maybe they're doing different things, right? Like they're also Coca-Cola, but they could be different divisions. Who knows, right?
Exactly.
And that just helps you put the puzzle pieces together, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So with this, you can see here's the location. You can't see who they are. Mm-hmm. Then you have contact level intent data. Okay.
Yep.
Contact level intent data. We use it. It's definitely the newest kind, and it's nowhere near as scary. Anybody who's like, oh, it's nowhere near as scary as what Facebook and Google are doing to us. Okay. Like this is not like picking up data on your phone and geofencing, your daily commute. No, this is like there are certain websites and certain platforms that people are on that they interact with content. They've signed terms and conditions. We get that data. We can start to understand who they are. Mm-hmm. So we put it together. You got account level intent data, location level intent data, and contact level intent data. Yep. Okay. So have I been clear, or am I moving too fast?
Crystal clear. Gin clear. Yep.
Gin clear. It's 5 o'clock.
Well, that's as clear as it gets, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not after you've had a bunch of gin.
No, it's about as unclear as it gets. Yeah. Yelling at everyone. Yeah. All right.
So let's kind of go into how we use these things. All right. So at the end of the day, so for Union, right, what we do is sales outreach. 1-to-1, we're looking for conversational, personalized, high-touch outreach to prospects. So with that said, and if we back up to the conversation about why retargeting is, it's a great marketing tool, but I wouldn't say that it's not as nuanced sometimes when you use it in the B2B space. It's hard to get that, and it's hard to get the ROI on that. And that's why pure B2B companies sometimes don't necessarily believe in it unless you got a huge budget. Because if you have a huge budget, just do stuff.
Right. Yeah. So, and there's like a high likelihood, or statistically a high likelihood, that what you put in front of someone, sure, might be the right person. Maybe the messaging's correct. Yeah. Doubtful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and if I want somebody, and that's where MQLs suck generally, because, a marketing qualified lead, think about this. They go to a site, they download an ebook or whatever. That just kind of ignores the nuance of, we need to have the right person involved in the conversation, and and just an inbound or a media driven MQL is not necessarily the most effective lead. Media has a place in this, but not in actually generating a lead. It's like it's air support, right? Like carpet bombing.
And I go so far as saying this could drive more intelligent, productive media, right?
Conversation. Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yes. So let's talk about the end result of all of this, whether it's account level, location level, or contact level intent data. The end result is we need to be starting conversations with the right people at the right time. Okay. So when we look at, and this is what we're doing is really working with data providers to understand kind of what signals are they picking up for particular clients, And then like, just because somebody's surging, that means they're doing research. That doesn't mean they're having necessarily boardroom conversations. So like, if we think about it, when we're having a conversation, we have two other partners in this company, right? So you and I have a conversation about something we want to do. We go out, we research, we talk to people, blah, 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 blah. Now, then what do? We, set up a meeting with our team. We start to have conversations. We start to go through a budgeting process. All of those things you cannot see inside of a company. That's like Watergate stuff, right?
And not to mention the speed at which we can act as a smaller company compared to, say the Coca-Cola, right? Or even when I was at HubSpot, right? That we'd be trying to improve. I'd have initiatives. There'd be goals I have to improve things, and I'd do research. I'd prepare a presentation. I'd try to get internal buy-in. I'd have to revise it. I mean, there's a period in my life where I literally walked around for like 6 months with this same slide deck, trying to get buy-in, trying to refine it, and it took forever. So the point being, you have to, just getting the signal alone does not show the actual full story, right? There's just a phase of the sales process, and these things take time, right? And it has to get to the right person, right? And then if I was in a meeting and somebody knew what I was talking about, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's right," right? And so like that needed to be a piece. So selling into something like that requires all these puzzle pieces to understand how to navigate it. Right. That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So exactly. So let's make it simple. So now once you understand that the company is surging, now you need to understand there's certain things that will give you a pretty good idea of what's happening. Let's look at the structure of the company, right? Do they have particular roles in their company? Do they have, like, this is easy to do on LinkedIn. It's easy to do in different, an Everstring, a Zoom Info, something like this, right? Like, do they have roles with specific titles that are relevant to you? How many
hiring, right? Like, we're ramping up. There's an initiative going on where they're hiring. Like for example, if they're hiring a bunch of engineers for their internal business systems, okay, well, what are they building? There's probably an opportunity there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So those are different signals, right? Like we use hiring as an intent signal as well, right? You can glean a lot from somebody's advertising for employment, right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, look at how a company is constructed. How many VPs do they have? Do they have VPs of everything, or is it like C-level director? Like, there's all these different things that you want to start to understand. And this is where we want to start to message into a company using, like, all right, we understand the 4 or 5 sort of intent signals that we're getting, 6, 12, whatever it is. Now we build our narrative, right? How can we assimilate our client or union, for that matter, into that buying cycle, buying process? Then we need to understand, and this takes time, what's the typical cycle? I mean, there are companies that we added to our internal sales loft that just this week are ready to have a conversation with us. And we added them probably 3 months ago. But they've read everything. They've been to the website. We have that first party data.
Yep.
So there's kind of you need to have that understanding. Then you need to start to understand, how are you messaging into specific roles based on the narrative you're trying to build. For instance, C-levels. Don't talk about tactics. Talk about teams, right? Your organization, your teams, your people, right?
Your North Star.
Yeah. But like the manager, the director who's like, probably there's an element of rolling up the sleeves or an element of dealing with people who are, really kind of in the trenches on a daily basis.
Yeah, how I actually pull this off, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So they're looking at a solution in a much different way. Arm those people to have conversations that might be above them in the organization. But I can tell you, there are so many people who look at C-levels as if they are the only people that they should talk to.
Oh my God. Yeah. Top of the food chain, right?
Yeah, it's crap because I can tell you that like, some of the first people, like, this is Andrew Grove book, only the paranoid survive, right? Like Intel, right, pretty much had made the transition to processors like without the upper level of the company knowing. Right. Like it kind of happened because these people are making decisions. They're optimizing their own units. And so I think it's really important to understand that like a director, a manager, a VP might have more sway in the decision-making process than you would have imagined. It is a complete failure to say, the C-level is the only person I should be talking about. So, and this is to say, this is where like you got to be careful with things like location-based intent data, contact level intent data. Like we use it, but use with care because the thing about it is there might be some false signals. Yeah. A center in, for like GE, like Crotonsville, there's like a lot of research going on. That's their center of excellence though, right? Like people are going there to research, to have conversations. They're not necessarily making decisions there, right? So I think that's the piece that people have to really be careful on. You need to get the right signals and then match that to the correct roles. Does this make sense?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. What I am not saying is take an intent feed from an intent data provider, load that into Zoom Info, and then just blast out 10,000 emails a week. That's not what I'm saying. Just to be clear.
I love it. I love it. So talk about like, I don't know, I guess what were the key takeaways of this, right? So like, I understand the data. I think you've done a great job explaining it. Let's talk about the takeaways, right? Let's assume everyone understands. Like, so
cool.
Give it like 1, 2, 3 key takeaways with your experience on all the business.
Yeah. All right. 3 takeaways. First one, figure out what's actually predictive. There's a lot of signals that seem cool, that might be awesome. You can see who's looking at your competitors. You can see who has these problems. We do things like build to set. This is a different episode, but understand the signals that will be predictive to your outreach. The only way to do that is to get started. The only way to do that is to collect data, but you got to figure out what's actually predictive. Then number 2, understand your target roles inside the account. Okay. And number 3, strategize on how to build those conversations to be different, but also with the mind that, or with keeping in mind that those conversations eventually are going to come different or come together. Right. So like, understand what the roles are. And then at the end of the day, like those people are going to have to talk for a decision to get made. Right. And so we got to be, you need alignment there. So figure out what's actually predictive, then figure out who you're actually trying to talk to, and then figure out what are you going to say, how do they align, and when the conversations do begin, how do we make sure that pipeline, that lead has good velocity right through your pipeline. Okay, so
that's all I got. So nice. Well, this wraps up today's episode of Intent Topics. I'm Chris Battis.
And I am Logan Kelly. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time on Intent Topics. Please give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you listen on. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone. See ya.